Well, hello, everyone. I am thrilled to have you here. I see a whole bunch of you on YouTube and Facebook and various places. So thank you for joining us. My name is Frances, and I'm a trusted senior travel advisor here at Stewart Travel Group. And on this dirty, cold, and wet night, what better to do than think about an amazing trip that we can all be doing in September of next year? I am going to introduce you here shortly to Jonathan Sargeant from Royal Irish Tours. But first, I'll tell you a little bit about us here at Stewart Travel Group. So we are a small boutique agency here in Prince Edward Island, and we are about 15 people. We've got a couple of coordinators and assistants to help us make everyone's trips great. The company is owned by Travis and Paula Stewart here in Charlottetown, and we have travel advisors located in New Brunswick, Nova Scotia, PEI, Montreal, and over in Germany. And so we're able to help you with all sorts of things. And actually, Kimberly and Jackie and Natalie are all missing from this slide, so I'll have to update it. But we've got a good group of folks that are there to help you with your next holiday. So I'm going to introduce you now to one of my favorite people. His name is Jonathan Sargeant, and he is from Royal Irish Tours. Jonathan, welcome.
Thank you, Frances, and hello, everyone. Thank you for joining this evening.
We are going to talk about Ireland, and so I'm going to turn it over to you to tell us all about our 2025 Ireland reunion tour. We're going to explore Ireland and Northern Ireland, so take it away.
Perfect. Thank you, Frances. Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining. Wherever you may be, I am joining from Toronto, where we had our first snowfall of the season this year as well. But welcome. So today I'm going to tell you a little bit about Royal Irish Tours and then the wonderful Stewart Travel Group reunion tour of Ireland for September next year, which is an amazing itinerary. They did a very similar one this year that was a very, very successful trip. So we're very excited to be hosting it again next year. And I believe Frances or one of the wonderful team will be joining the group. So a bit about Royal Irish Tours. We are family owned and operated. Our owner, Ian Duffy, seen in the picture there in the top right, born and raised in Ireland, fell in love with a Canadian who convinced him to move back to Canada, set up roots in Richmond Hill, just north of Toronto, back 35 years ago now. He realized no one was really specializing in Ireland. He worked for a few various tour operators and decided to start a tour company that just sold Ireland. He's since expanded to sell Ireland, England, Scotland, and Wales. But we have our head office in Canada. Ireland is our bread and butter, and we're very excited to be doing coach tours and other experiences there. But coach tours are really our specialty. So Ireland, if you haven't been there, is a small little island. Not quite as small as Prince Edward Island, but to give you an idea, from Dublin to Galway is about a 3.5 hour drive. From Derry, Londonderry in the north, all the way down to Cork will be about 9 or 10 hour drive. So in a 10-day, 11-day itinerary, you really can see quite a lot of the country. The Stewart Travel Group will do a nice anti-clockwise tour. Clockwise tour of Ireland, which will take in many of the hotspots as well as some off the beaten track destinations. As a destination, the whole island of Ireland is promoted as one by Tourism Ireland. And this whole west coast, the Wild Atlantic Way, is one of the most beautiful driving routes in all of the world. So you'll have a chance to experience lots of little signature points along the way, as well as some of our favorite cities such as Galway, a few nights in the beautiful Killarney, as well as Belfast and Dublin. But yeah, you'd fit PEI quite a few times into Ireland, so not nearly as big as Ireland, but again, Ireland is still small compared to Canada as a whole, that's for sure. So why Ireland? I mean, there's so many great reasons to visit. The scenery and the greenery is often why people want to go, and we always say it's the food and the people is why they want to go back. But history is often what gets people interested to start. Obviously, lots of people with Irish ancestry here in Canada, and especially on the East Coast. There's nearly 4.5 million Canadians who claim Irish ancestry, and I think something like 20% of PEI is of Irish descent, which is amazing. Every time I've been there, it almost feels like I've gone home. And there's really you really do get that feeling in Ireland as well, even if you've never been there, even if you have no connection to Ireland. The warm welcome you get when you land on Irish soil, when you breathe in the fresh air, when you get out to the coast, you almost feel like you've come home, even if you've never been there. It's a really hard feeling to explain until you've actually been there. But history is definitely a reason people like to go, ancestral connections, but also visiting lots of beautiful castles, perhaps staying in one, which this tour will do as well. So history has a lot of appeal. Of course, the iconic visits, the likes of the Cliffs of Moher, seen in the background of my screen here. I'm not there at the moment. It'd be a little chilly and dark if I was there right now. But the Cliffs of Moher are definitely a highlight for many people, but there's so many wonderful spots to go. The Giant's Causeway, Trinity College, Blarney Castle. And that's often why people want to go. And seeing these beautiful, beautiful destinations and these spots along the way really do add to the trip. But it's really about engaging with the locals. The food and drink has really taken off in the last 10, 15 years. So we'll always do a farmhouse dinner experience. You'll get a chance to try lots of the local beers and wines and other delicacies in any of the pubs and restaurants. And we have lots of included meals always, so breakfast is always included. But we really pride ourselves on provenance in Ireland, on farm to fork. Everything you're eating is generally sourced 15 or 20 miles from where you're eating it. Often hotels and restaurants will have bakers, so they'll be making their own bread fresh. There's a little booklet some of the hotels we use, which will have a list where the farm that they got their eggs from that day and stuff like that. So it's really, really nice. Provenance is very important. Not the reason people want to go to Ireland, but often the reason they want to come back is the amazing food. And of course, everyone knows about the famous Irish drinks, Jameson, lots of wonderful whiskies. Gin has really taken off in recent years, and of course, the most famous, one of the most popular beers in the world, Guinness. Um, it was born and bred in Dublin, and on your free day in Dublin, you'd have a chance to get to the Guinness storehouse and have the best pint of Guinness in the world. So the scenery and the greenery, as well as those idyllic settings. So lots of great hidden gems as you travel throughout Ireland. And in particular, I love the West Coast and Connemara. Perhaps not as well known as the Ring of Kerry, but you'll get a chance to experience some beautiful scenery like seen in the picture here. Getting out to the Ring of Kerry as well as one of the most beautiful driving routes in all of Ireland too. And quaint towns and villages. This is Doolin seen in the background here, which is just a hop, skip, and a jump from the Cliffs of Moher. There's so many wonderful little towns. And on this itinerary, you'll stay in a mix of the major cities like Dublin and Belfast, as well as the smaller cities like Galway and little towns. When we stay in Donegal, you get a chance to experience the diamond in there, and all the little quirky shops, cafes, restaurants. But the best part about Ireland is really engaging with the locals, and it's when you're in the small towns, having a pint in the local pub, chatting to the bartender, or one of the fellow locals. They might ask you what your name is, where you're from, what you're doing in Ireland. They're not being nosy, they're just genuinely friendly, and they're really interested to hear where you've come from. And they hear you've come all the way from Canada, especially from the East Coast and PEI or similar. They'll be more than happy to chat with you and maybe even buy you a pint. And then, yeah, the friendly locals, engaging with them, especially in the bars and restaurants or in the local shops. A lot of people make lifelong friends in our trip, and I know it's Stewart Travel Group. Many of you will know each other already, which is amazing. But what traveling's all about, it's about engagement, about meeting the local people and really immersing yourself in the destination. Of course, the breathtaking scenic routes, and that's the best thing about doing a coach tour. You don't have to worry about driving on roads like this seen in the background. But don't worry, whenever the roads are very small, generally there's not too much traffic on them. But you get to some really, really amazing destinations. And being on the coach as well, you're up a little higher. So on the Causeway Coastal Route, for example, you're right on the cliff's edge at some stages and able to see right down. While if you're on a driving holiday, first of all, you'd be driving, so you wouldn't be able to look yourself. But being on the coach, you get a chance just to sit back and relax and take in all the amazing scenery along the way. And what often sets us apart, we always say, is our tour managers. Most have been with us 10 plus years. Here's four of our wonderful female guides, an example of one of our coaches and we use on our tours. But they really do add to the trip. Some of them are farmers or former school teachers, geologists, university lecturers. So they always have a very interesting story to tell, their own take on Ireland, but they really do add to the trip, and they'll be happy to answer any questions you have along the way. Group size as well. I mean, it's always nice to travel with a nice group. So generally 40 to 45 will be the group size with Stewart Travel on their trip around Ireland. And it's really amazing. You meet lots of like-minded people, and you have a laugh. We have friends for life. People have done a trip with us 1 year in Ireland, and then we get messages that they're on a trip somewhere in Europe with someone they met on one of our tours. So it's really amazing that you get to meet lots of wonderful people as well. You are on your holidays after all, on your vacation, so it's really great to engage with the fellow passengers. So what's Royal Irish all about? Before I go into the itinerary, engagement, as I mentioned, and we always like to include Irish entertainment nights. This itinerary will have Trad on the Prom, which I'll talk a bit about a bit more about shortly. But seeing Irish dancers or Irish musicians up close, it's really amazing. A tip for you, if you don't want to get up and dance yourself, don't make eye contact with any of the dancers. Sometimes they'll drag you up on stage. So it's always fun, always very engaging. And the picture on the right there is when I went to Quill's farmhouse. We do a lovely farmhouse dinner there, and you're welcomed by the Irish wolfhounds and lots of other animals, goats and horses and stuff. So a really amazing experience. You really do engage with the locals when you're in Ireland. That's what travel's all about. And memorable experiences, whether it's traveling through the beautiful scenic areas or just having a laugh with a local in a pub or a restaurant. It really is. That's what travel's all about. And you'll certainly have that in Ireland and the UK. So I'm just going to go through a day by day of the Stewart Travel Group itinerary next year. A really, really amazing itinerary. Really is taking in all of the hotspots. So again, it's going to begin in Dublin, the first night in Kilkenny, and then a full clockwise lap of Ireland, finishing with the final 2 nights in Dublin. Doing your final 2 nights in Dublin is great because generally the flights leave quite early on the departure day from Dublin. So it's kind of peace of mind. You're not having to travel too far. So the first day would be a nice leisurely trip down to Kilkenny, which is only about an hour and a half drive from Dublin into the city. And as you can see, the distances aren't huge. So you're never longer than 3 to 4 hours on the coach in any one day, and lots of 2 night stays in there, just a couple of one nights, the first night, and then the castle stay up in Donegal as well. So other than that, a nice relaxed pace and very much a full island experience. So lots of great inclusions. So your transport would always be included. We always include a driver and a guide. Your porterage is always included. So your checked bag is always looked after, so you don't have to worry about lugging that on and off the coach. And whenever you are changing hotels, you're just asked to leave it outside your room, generally an hour before you're due to depart that morning, and then you'll see it in your next hotel room 30 or 40 minutes after you arrive. And then 10 nights in wonderful 4-star accommodation, as well as one 5-star night in the castle, and 10 breakfasts. So breakfast is always included in Ireland. 4 of your evening meals at hotels, as well as a traditional supper at Quill's farmhouse, and a nice supper and farewell Irish entertainment evening with some dancers. Lots of attraction visits. As I won't go through all of these, but I'll mention some of these as I go through the day by day. But as you can see, very much an all-inclusive experience. Not fully all-inclusive, but again, lunch is on your own, so that'd be maybe 10, 15 euro a day, and a few evening meals. Generally, when we're 2 nights in any one destination, we'd give you one free evening, one included meal, so you get to try the local bars and restaurants as well. So day one would be depart from Canada on September 12th. So talk to the Stewart Travel Group team, and I know Francis is going to maybe talk about that briefly after. So depart for Ireland. It's an overnight flight, so you'd probably be connecting. So you're looking at 7 hours from a Toronto or Montreal gateway, or from Halifax, it's only about 5 hours, or 6 hours in the air. So very easy to get there, and then it's about an hour longer coming back. So a hop, skip, and a jump across the pond. But on day one or day two, as it would be when you arrive in Ireland, we always like to have it as a leisurely pace. So this day you'd head down to the National Stud in Japanese Gardens, which is an amazing visit. You get to learn a bit about the Irish horse breeding, the Irish horse racing industry as well. You get to meet some of the studs. Some of them are insured for hundreds of millions, and many winners from the Kentucky Derbies to the Melbourne Cup to races all over Ireland and the UK have been bred at this national stud. So it's really amazing. They also have this wonderful Japanese gardens there, which have been there for over 100 years. A Japanese gardener came over and he had this idea and created a beautiful Japanese garden there. So you have a chance to explore that. We'll then head down to Kilkenny, which is one of Ireland's oldest cities. Some beautiful buildings there, including Kilkenny Castle seen in the background there. And the hotel you stay in, Hotel Kilkenny, is just outside the city, but it's a great city to go and explore the bars. First day, we have an included dinner at the hotel, get to meet your fellow passengers, and then the longer touring will begin the following day. But the National Stud, a really nice visit on that first day. Day three, you can get the gift of the gab out of the way nice and early by kissing the Blarney Stone. The man there in the bottom left is helping that guest bend over backwards to kiss, because you have to kiss it upside down because there is a gap. So it's a really funny and quirky experience. If you don't want to kiss the stone, the gardens are beautiful to explore, as well as just seeing the castle. There's some nice shops, a little cafe there as well, but a really nice experience. We also stop in Cahir Castle. You get a lovely guided tour there as well. And then we go down to Killarney, where you're going to spend 2 nights and you have free time before overnight in a very central 4-star hotel there. The next day is one of the most scenic then of the whole trip, the Ring of Kerry, um, where you'll see lots and lots of iconic scenes like this, lots of sheep. You'll probably see more sheep than people on this day. So it's a really nice scenic trip. This is kind of where you'll experience lots of the wonderful small little towns, depending on the day, depending on the driver and guide, what they decide. They'll probably stop in places like Sneem, Kenmare, Killorglin. These are all little wonderful towns, so we'll stop in one of them generally for your lunch, as well as getting to right to the edge of the cliffside and looking over the North Atlantic. So some really fantastic photo opportunities this day, chance to engage with locals, do some shopping in some of the little quirky artisan shops in the towns and get some food along the way as well. Then when we're back in Killarney, get a chance to do a local Jarvie ride. So that's a horse and cart ride through Killarney National Park. I did it back in March last year. We had a bit of rain, so we had have the cover up, but it's really beautiful. Hopefully it gets slightly nicer weather than I did when I did it. These are pictures I took last year, but a really cool experience through Killarney National Park, and get taken up to Muckra's house there, and you get some beautiful views of Ross Castle and the lakes of Killarney, which are famous and in many wonderful Irish songs, including the song Lake of Killarney, if you're interested in listening to that one after. And then the next day we travel north. You get to see the beautiful Cliffs of Moher, which is probably Ireland's most popular or most well-known visitor attraction after the Guinness Storehouse. En route, you'll stop in the Foynes Flying Boat Museum, which is a really cool experience, and that's actually where the Irish coffee was invented, when an American um, army person traveling back asked them to put some whiskey in his coffee, and the Irish coffee was born there. So that's where it originates from. So a really interesting day. You get to see the Foynes Flight Museum, and get to go to the Cliffs of Moher before arriving in Galway, which for many people, even Irish people, it is a favorite spot. You're right in the heart of the city at the Hardiman Hotel. We'll have dinner and overnight, and then have a chance to experience the trad on the prom. So when you go to the Cliffs of Moher, instead of just seeing it from above, you get to do a beautiful cruise out to see it from below. You'll see all the wonderful bird life, and you get a really fantastic view. Hopefully you get a nice day, like I did the day I did it last year, but a really cool experience. You can see the Aran Islands, which are just out a bit further on a clear day, but a really amazing experience getting up and close and personal with the Cliffs of Moher. A highlight for many people will be the trad on the prom. So Chris Kelly, seen in the picture here, he actually started it. He was one of the directors on Michael Flatley's Riverdance and Lord of the Dance. So he worked on that, and he met his wife, who was the lead dancer in Lord of the Dance, and they started their own traditional Irish trad on the prom in Galway. His son is a famous Irish dancer. He's been to the White House on St. Patrick's Day. He travels all around the world doing various events for the Irish government and stuff. So a really, really cool experience and a really amazing traditional Irish show. So there's some shows you do around Ireland that are kind of just put together by locals, but this is really, really amazing, an amazing production. And he's a sound engineer as well. He does it at the local cinema in town, and a really fantastic experience on the stage. It's like going to a live concert or something. So really, really cool experience. Obviously, lots of Riverdance dancers. So you'll see lots of wonderful Irish dancing as well as Irish music, and it's a really, really amazing experience. Galway, though, a really fantastic town to just wander around. Lots of fantastic shops. Anyone interested in the Claddering? This is the home of the Claddering. I know Travis Stewart has a wedding band which has some Claddagh in it. So Galway is the home of the Claddering. There's a really cool place called Tom Dillon's on Shop Street. This is Shop Street here in the picture. And it's got a little Claddagh museum, so you can see Claddagh rings that are thousands of years old in there. But a great place to buy your Claddagh if you're interested. But really, really nice just to go along the shops and bars along there. I can give a few recommendations to Francis, and I'm sure Travis will have a few from when he was there this year. But Galway has some of the best pubs in Ireland, and again, your hotel is very central. So I'm sure lots of you will be spending plenty of your evenings in the pub when you're there. We do a lovely half-day trip to Kylemore Abbey and to Connemara from Galway, so it's about an hour from Galway. This is not somewhere you stay. Kylemore Abbey is actually a convent run by Benedictine nuns who escaped persecution in Belgium after World War One and came here to live a life of solace in beautiful, idyllic Connemara. So nuns are still running the convent here, but it's very open to the public. So we get a lovely guided tour by a local, and then there's a beautiful walled garden, which is a little walk down, or you can take a little bus down to it. So really, really nice place to visit. And just the scenery and the greenery you see in Connemara National Park on this day is fantastic. When you're on the west coast, you hear lots of people speaking Gaelic as well. So the last time I was at Kylemore Abbey, our guide was actually a Gaelic speaker, and he started chatting to me in Gaelic, presuming I could speak Gaelic because I'm Irish. But while I learnt it in school, I'm certainly not fluent. So he quickly switched back to English. But it's really interesting to see locals still using, keeping the Irish language and culture alive by talking it every day. There's only about 5,000 people on the whole island of Ireland who use it as their first language every day. So it's really amazing when you see people using it every day when you're over there. The next day, then, after a few sore heads, after a couple of nights in Galway, we travel north up to Sligo, and then we're going to see Yeats Country. This is where W.B. Yeats got a lot of his inspiration for many of his most famous poems. The Isle of Innisfree, of course, is in Sligo. So we do a lovely scenic journey through there, generally stop in Strandhill or Sligo Town, both great places for lunch. On lunch stops, we generally try to stop in nice towns and villages where you have a bit of time to explore, grab a sandwich, wander the shops, chat to the locals. But this is Ben Bulbin seen in the background here, our own version of Table Mountain, much smaller. But a really, really nice, idyllic place to visit along the way before heading up to Donegal and your most special night of the trip, a night in the beautiful five-star Loch S Castle. This is actually my favorite castle in all of Ireland. The people in Donegal, I mean, I might be a little biased because my mother is from Donegal, but I just find them to be the nicest people in all of Ireland up there. They have a lovely accent. In here, it really is like going back in time. They have lovely fireplaces lit. If it's a cold day, they'll give you a warm apple cider when you arrive. If it's a hot day, they'll give you a nice cool beverage when you arrive, and you really get a lovely warm Irish welcome when you're here. There's a lovely spa here as well if you have a chance to use the pool and stuff. And we do include a dinner in the Cedar restaurant as well, which is amazing. But all the rooms are like stepping back in time and a really amazing experience. It's about 9 kilometers outside Donegal town. So generally when you get here, you'll just enjoy the facilities and probably not leave until you check out the next day, where I'll have a chance to go into Donegal town to explore the wonderful shops there along the way. But there's the grounds. And if you get there in daylight, I highly recommend going for a little wander around. You might see some interesting wildlife in the forest. Nothing big like you have here in Canada, but you might see lots of different interesting birds and various things like that. Then the next day, we do a lovely trip to the Causeway Coastal Route all the way to Belfast. We generally do this the other way around, but I think it's really much better to do this way. Have a nice leisurely morning, enjoy the castle, and then take off into Derry, Londonderry, for a walking tour there. Again, a really fantastic city. And when you go to Northern Ireland, it really is amazing. So 1 in 10 Americans will go to Northern Ireland, but 1 in 3 Canadians will go. So that's really nice. Ever since the times of the Troubles, Belfast and Derry were in the news for all the wrong reasons. But it's just amazing to see how far it's come in 20, 30 years. And it's now got one of the youngest populations in all of Europe. It's a very safe destination. So there's still great value up there. And there's so many wonderful things to see and do, especially when you see the Causeway Coastal Route. When you meet our wonderful guide in Derry as well, he really brings to life what it was like growing up there during the times of the Troubles. You do still see a divide between the Catholics and the Protestants, but it's really amazing them just telling that story and just seeing how far it's come. There's some really moving murals. So generally we do a little tour on the coach just to get a feel for the city, and then we'll walk a part of the walls. It is one of the only remaining wall cities in all of Europe, so really, really nice to wander around there. And then we head over to the Giant's Causeway, the UNESCO World Heritage Site. A lot of people think they're in Iceland when they get there. So it formed from volcanic eruptions millions of years ago, or if you believe Irish mythology, these are actually the footsteps of giant Finn McCool when he was fighting fellow giant Benandonner over in Scotland. So lots of great mythology. You'll learn about fairies and leprechauns and stuff. The Irish were always great storytellers back in the day, and stories would have been passed down generation to generation. So the giant Finn McCool being one of the most famous stories, and your guide will certainly tell you all about that. Anyone with mobility issues, I wouldn't worry too much in Ireland. We stop at all the attractions right outside the door, but this is one where we have a guided walk down. It's downhill, it's about 700 meters down, have a chance to explore the stones and then walk back up. However, there is a local bus you can take, which is £1 each way. So anyone with mobility issues, don't worry, you can still get down there and back, no problem at all. And then we come into Belfast, which again is one of my another favorite city of mine. 2 nights right in the heart of the city, but en route you'll see this beautiful Causeway Coastal Route. Again, another really scenic drive. And it became famous back in 2014 as we hosted the Giro d'Italia cycling trip. It's next to the Tour de France. So the Giro d'Italia is the Italian version where they all wear pink jerseys. So you'll see lots of doors and fence posts and stuff painted pink as you travel down the Giant's Causeway and the Causeway Coastal Route. Don't be alarmed or wondering what's going on there. A lot of them would have painted to get in the spirit in 2014 for the Giro d'Italia, and they've kept them pink ever since. So yeah, the UNESCO World Heritage Site of the Giant's Causeway, it's still run by the National Trust, which is the world's largest sustainable travel company. So it's really, really nice, very well looked after, and there's a beautiful visitor centre there as well. Then you come into Belfast, have a chance to explore the Titanic Quarter. So we're actually going to do a guided tour, sorry, a self-guided tour of the Titanic experience. Any cruisers going, it's a very interesting experience for that. You kind of learn the history of Cunard, the history of shipbuilding in Belfast, and the history of the cruise industry as well. But it also tells the story mostly of Belfast hiring 14,000 people locally to build a ship over 4 years. It really was the pride of the city. You see what it was like on board as a first class passenger, as a third class passenger. They've added a new exhibition just in the last year where they actually have some artifacts from the Titanic hanging down, violins, pianos, and stuff. So it's a really, really interesting experience and very moving. There's a little roller coaster you can take. When I say roller coaster, it goes about 1 mile per hour, but you hear voices of survivors from the Titanic. You see what it was like to work in the coal bunkers windows at the bottom of the ship and stuff. So really, really interesting experience and a very moving one. Just across the road, another very moving experience, Crumlin Road Jail. They used to have a joke back in the day in Northern Ireland. If you wanted to be in politics after the time of the Troubles, you had to have served at least a few months in Crumlin Road Jail, because this is where all the political prisoners would have been held during the times of the Troubles. So you learn a lot about the struggles throughout there. There was a lot of hunger strikes. Bobby Sands wasn't at this jail, but you learn a bit of that history about Bobby Sands, who was the first member of Parliament in the UK to ever be elected when he was behind bars. He went on hunger strike. So it's really interesting to kind of to learn about the troubles here. And as you see the jail, you see the horrific conditions they would have had there. Sometimes the guide is a former prisoner there, which is really interesting because all the prisoners were political prisoners. So very moving experience. And again, that's a very wonderful day going to Titanic and then to Crumlin, and you really get immersed into the history of Northern Ireland and Belfast. Then you'll have a free night to explore all Belfast has to offer, as well as a free afternoon to do any shopping or wander to any other museums. Your hotel is very centrally located. You're around the corner from the MAC, which is the art museum. You're very close to the Crown Liquor Saloon, which is the most famous pub in Belfast. Queen Victoria had a drink there. Harry and Meghan had a drink there the last time they were in town. So it's got old Victorian floors. It's got little snugs, so you close the door and ring a bell for service and stuff. So really quirky and interesting experience, and that's just around the corner from your hotel. Crumlin Road Jail, though, a really fabulous visit. And then the next day, we're travelling down to Dublin for the final 2 nights. So Belfast to Dublin is about a 2-hour drive, but not much included this day. So we will be sure to stop in lots of nice towns and villages, maybe Carlingford or similar, which is an old Viking town right on the coast. We did have a distillery on the tour this year, but it's actually closed to the public. So we're going to include a distillery in Dublin. So we're just finalising which distillery it's going to be. But you get a panoramic tour of Dublin when you arrive, a wee tipple of whiskey, and then we'll stay in the beautiful Camden Court Hotel, which is one of my favorite hotels in Dublin in a really fantastic area, Camden Street. So we recommend going out and exploring all Camden Street has to offer. The Bleeding Horse is a nice pub that's actually attached to your hotel, and it got its name after a horse actually went through the window back in the day. So lots of interesting names of pubs you'll see as you travel around. Some of the most famous pubs in Ireland are on that stretch down from the Camden Court Hotel, the Long Hall, a favourite of mine, but so many great pubs and restaurants and historic places in that area. As well. Then you have a full free day to explore all Dublin has to offer, and we recommend the likes of Guinness, Epic Ireland, the Book of Kells in Trinity College, and that is something I would recommend booking in advance in September if you are looking to actually see the Book of Kells, but you can go into Trinity College and explore around, no problem at all. Kilmainham Jail, again, another thing you would have to book, but if you've been to Crumlin Road Jail, you kind of learn a lot of the struggles of the people in Northern Ireland. But if you want to learn more about Irish history and 1916, our struggle for independence, then Kilmainham Jail is year after year voted as the best visitor attraction in all of Ireland. Epic Ireland tells the story of Irish immigration. So really interesting if you have any ancestral connections. It's a fully digital and immersive experience. So you learn about people like bandits, like Ned Kelly, who went off um, to Australia. You learn about all the different presidents of the United States who have Irish connections. In Canada, lots of former premiers and prime ministers in Canada have Irish ancestry as well, so you can learn about that. Or you can go into the Irish Ancestry Centre next door and learn a bit about your own Irish ancestry if you wish. You can book an appointment in there and go in and meet with a consultant for an hour and learn a lot of the history of that. So there's so much to see and do in Dublin. The guide will obviously be able to give you lots of recommendations along the way. So really great place to explore and see all Dublin has to offer. Then we always do a final night in Johnny Fox's or similar. So an Irish pub up the Dublin mountains where you get live Irish entertainment, a really nice meal, a hearty Irish stew or salmon or things like that, and a great way to finish off your tour, which would have been a fabulous trip, 11 days exploring all Ireland has to offer. You get a wee taste. In this presentation, but honestly, you can't do justice in pictures or anything about how wonderful Ireland is. Once you get there, you will be blown away. I've been living in Canada 13 years, but every time I go back home, I wonder why I live in Canada. I mean, I love Canada, but there's so many beautiful places in Ireland, and the people really do add to the destination as well. Then day 12 would be your morning transfer to Dublin Airport, a short 20-minute trip that morning to the airport for your trip back home. So before I know we'll pass it back to Francis, but there's always frequently asked questions, so I'll try answer some of the questions some of you might have in advance. So the weather, September, you're looking at 15 to 25 by day, 10 to 15 by night. We always recommend layers in Ireland, so warm sweaters, comfortable boots during the day. Our tours are very casual, so you don't have to dress up or wear blazers or anything. If you'd like to, dress up for dinner and stuff, you can. Some people do on that night when we're at Loch Ness Castle, a nice place to dress up if you want to, but really you don't have to, wear what you like. But definitely recommend layers, a nice warm or a good rain jacket as well, because in 10, 11 days, you'd be lucky if you don't see rain for at least a day or two. Currency in Ireland, we use the euro, which is about 155 against the Canadian dollar. And in Northern Ireland, we use the sterling. So that's the British pound. So with that, we recommend having some cash, but credit cards, debit cards are accepted widely throughout Ireland and Northern Ireland. So definitely bring a bit of cash. But yeah, cards are accepted. Average cost for lunches, dinners not included. €15 gets you a good lunch, soup and a sandwich or similar in any pub around Ireland or the UK. And in Ireland, the euro for dinner, 25 to €30 will get you a nice dinner and a pint. How much is a pint? Now, it depends where you go in Dublin. I had a pint in the Temple Bar, and I think it was €10. So that'd be a very touristy bar, but it's a great bar, great live music and stuff. But if you're going to a quiet local pub anywhere on Camden Street, you're looking at about €7 for a pint, 6.50 to 7. And in more rural areas, 5 to 5.50. And then in terms of how long you're on the coach, some days 4 to 5 hours. There's some longer days like the Giants Causeway Day, like the day from Killarney up to Galway, but generally 3 to 5 hours on the coach in any one day, never longer than an hour, hour and a half without making a comfort stop or stopping at a wonderful attraction along the way. So that's just a quick overview of the tour. Thank you all for listening. I'll pass it back over to Francis now, and if anyone has any questions, I'm happy to answer them. With a big thank you, everyone, for joining.
Awesome, Jonathan. Thank you so much. So for everybody, you post your questions in the chat. So I know we are speaking, and it's probably a 10-second delay or so until you can hear us. So we know that it'll take a minute. But while we do that, I am just going to tell you a little bit about the pricing and dates. So for Ireland reunion next year, we're going from September 12th to 23rd. That includes the day we leave Canada and the day we return to Canada. And that QR code right there will take you directly to the page that has all of the details about the tour. And I'll show you that in 1 second. So the pricing for this is excellent. It's $5,090 per person, double occupancy for land only, or $6,390, including your air from Atlantic Canada. And we will be securing the air here before Christmas. So if you're interested in that, let us know, and we will make sure that you're part of the group air. Just while we're talking about group air, there will be a few things like that are restricted around the group air. So if you would like to upgrade your seats or anything like that, talk to us before you book, and we'll make sure you're clear on all of those things. And one last little update, Jonathan, I know you're excited about this, is we are going to be doing the England and Wales Classic in 2026. And so that will be at the end of September as well. It's not launched yet, and it will be hosted by Beth Ann Marr, who is one of our trusted travel advisors in New Brunswick. And she loves that part of the world and is excited to bring a group there. And we're doing that with Royal Irish as well. So questions, there's only one. You're going to love it, Jonathan. Will there be beer on the coach?
It depends
Yeah.
if you bring it on or not. But honestly, the good thing I will say about Ireland, I mean, obviously, if you're a beer drinker, it's a really fantastic destination for that. But what I always love is the local beers. Even when I go home, I hear of a beer that I've never heard of. So I know it's huge in Canada now, local breweries, but
Mhm.
Heineken and Guinness used to own something like 99% of the beer market in Ireland. But all the local breweries have taken a bit of that business. So I think they still own about 80% of the market, but it's really great to see all the local beers. As I mentioned, gin has really taken off as well. So lots of really great gin distilleries and, of course, lots of amazing whiskey. So you'll certainly have a good time if you enjoy a tipple or two around
Yeah,
Ireland.
I'm really excited about that. I'm a gin lover, so also love beer, but that's excellent. I don't see any other questions. I'm going to just give it a minute, but um, I'm so Jonathan, of this trip, you said trout on the prom will probably be a highlight. If what else do you think are going to be the biggest highlights for this group?
Yeah, I mean, if they have any ancestral connection, you know, just the free day in Dublin is nice. Like, there's lots of really great visits you could do, like Epic Ireland or Trinity College are two of my
Mhm.
favorites. But also in Belfast, that Titanic experience is a really amazing visit. And even
Yeah,
if, everyone knows a little about the Titanic, but just
yeah,
learning about the Belfast shipbuilding history and seeing what it
yeah,
was like back then. That's another highlight for me. But I
yeah.
love the small towns, the villages. Honestly, the bars in Galway would be a highlight for me.
I'm going to make sure I get all of those tips from you
Yeah.
before we go over there. I'm not seeing any other questions right now, so we are going to leave it there. So for everybody, we're really excited to have you join us on our 2025 Ireland reunion from September 12th to 23rd. If you have any questions at all, please reach out. My contact information is here. Travis's is there. I know Travis is at home watching. It's going to be an absolutely fantastic experience. And actually, I have one more question around, which I know I'm going to get asked, is around free time. Can you give us a sense? You've given us a sense of bus time. What's the free time like throughout the tour?
Yeah, so generally when we're in any of the places for 2 nights, we like to give lots of free time. So that final day in Dublin, you have the whole day free. So if you want to
Right.
get up nice and early, get out and about and explore, you have the whole day. Belfast, there's a half day, but generally, at lunchtime, generally there's 2 hours free, and then generally 2 to 3 hours before any of your, we try to arrive at the hotel at 4, and dinner might be at 7.
Oh,
So
nice. So there
definitely
are a
double.
few hours every day
Yeah,
that you can
yeah,
wander.
there
Yeah.
should be. I mean, some days just when there's longer, like the Donegal to Belfast day, there's not a
Yeah.
huge amount of free time there, for example. But anywhere where we're 2 nights, there's generally a half day free.
That's great. So you're not doing like back to back, go, go, go. There's a really nice pace
Yeah,
throughout the trip,
absolutely.
which is amazing. Okay,
Yeah.
awesome. Well, we're going to leave it there. I want to say thank you. There's been, nearly 20 people on and off. So I'm sure we probably had 30 or 40 people stop in and get a little taste of Ireland tonight, which is absolutely incredible. Thank you for taking the time. Thank you to all of you who joined us. We really, really appreciate you taking the time. I know it's kind of the perfect night for an at-home travel show with the first night of snow. But if you have any questions at all, please reach out. Francis at stewarttravelgroup.ca. I can't wait to travel to Ireland with you next year. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.